Oh, I guess this would be like just a live update. I'll post it right after I make it. I got a few teaching posts that are going to go up, so I'll try to go short. These could be live on Facebook, but I upload them and all. I just watched the news. We're going to talk on some issues. The teaching video I did today, which probably goes up in a week. There's a few others before that. We talked about, and I don't want to reteach it, but how the gospel affects us as people, obviously, and how it also should shape or form our view even when we are engaging in society about issues. Okay? And so I won't talk how that fits in, but I just watched the world news, NBC. And I figured, I was surprised that the top story wasn't covering some riot or something racially charged. But I'll mention North Korea in a second. But also, they found it top news that Chuck Todd, who is the Sunday morning guy for NBC, I guess, I used to watch part of it. Top news. They did a poll in 3 or so of the Rust Belt states, which I've commented on. And the poll was this: how many of you are embarrassed of the president? Now, my liberal friends, I'm sure you'd say, oh, sure, many would be, John. But this is not a political campaign. You're so many months into the presidency, and they're running polls, just the top news, world news. How many people in these particular states are embarrassed of the president? Do you know, no matter how many opponents of either President Obama or whoever, they just thought that would be a good top news story at this time in our country. And then they showed the numbers. And as I watch it, I know the public might just watch world news. That's what this is. And say, oh my, but they won't ask themselves, I wonder why they never ran a poll. As far as I can remember, it's not a political season, not a political campaign. It's not near the end of the presidency. They already did the polls on how he did in the first 100 days. But they just found that time to just do a poll on how many of you are embarrassed of the president. Then they went to North Korea. My son-in-law earlier asked me, because I taught at my daughter's house the Bible, and he said, is it a threat? Is North Korea a real threat? And I told my son-in-law, honestly, I said, well, Anthony, they're not really the big nuclear threat, because a few months ago, the U.S. more than likely did a computer. We do this, okay? This happened famously a few years back with, I think it was Iran, the Stuxnet virus. But I said, we seem to have had the capability, and maybe we were testing this a few months ago when North Korea did one of their tests, and we kind of scuttled the launch of one of their rockets. But, of course, it's a danger, because China said this past week, and maybe it didn't get a lot of play, but it was news. But China said, if Donald Trump, they joined with us, Russia and China joined on the UN, the latest sanction that the UN did, led by the United States against North Korea. But China, so they're kind of voted with us, but they said if the U.S. does a preemptive strike, then China will back North Korea, who is North Korea's biggest ally. So the danger would simply be not so much that they, maybe they'd be able to hit Guam, but I think we would stop everything if they did that. Russia would be, if you ever had an all-out nuclear war, okay, they have a few hundred more nuclear warheads than the U.S. We're both close to 8,000, okay? So that would be the big one. But I told my son-in-law, but still it would be disastrous if we had a war, okay? Because South Korea, and we have troops there, and some media person even got that wrong about. But what is the media doing? Whenever they report on North Korea, they reported on Trump just being in New Jersey at his resort for the vacation, and this is how they reported it. I thought they were going to report it honestly, like, well, he was on a working vacation, which it was. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the country, and the media has pushed this. But they said as Trump relaxed at his vacation, the rest of the country did not have time to relax. But this is world news media, giving the impression. Now, why are they pushing in the same coverage of North Korea? Why are they pushing? They show every picture of North Korea and the leader of North Korea. They show every picture of him mocking and smiling and laughing and challenging Trump. And then the media, when they're basically saying at the same time, Trump is too unstable. This is one of the narratives. And yet they're saying, what will he do? Will he let North Korea get away with this? What are they doing? I believe if you remember, I believe they're trying, many people are looking for an impeachment. You had that Democratic lady that even tweeted she hoped the president would be assassinated. I think that was out of Missouri. She tweeted that. There's another guy that's already written up articles of impeachment, a Democrat. When Trump tweeted about the military, okay, and the whole thing that from now on, he did the tweet. No more of the transgender in military. But when that tweet went out, then the media began covering that the generals in the military have not made any changes, and then the military basically said, it's got to come through official channels, rightfully. We're not going to act upon a tweet. I think the media saw a little foot in the door there. The one particular way you would really be able to get a huge impeachment movement, which they're trying to do, to get rid of him, resign or impeach, is if he made a decision militarily. And that decision, then the generals behind the scenes, and you have a lot of people behind the scenes that are working against Trump. And if they said, Mr. Trump, you've now made a particular choice to go and to take out North Korea's nuclear sites, and we just can't do this. It's just so out of hand. And if we have something like that, where Trump jumped the gun, and I'm not saying it would be jumping the gun, but if he said, I'm making a decision to act militarily, there was someone on the inside, like James Comey, a former FBI director, who took notes of the president's meetings, because he said, I guess Comey felt he couldn't trust him, but then leaked those notes to the New York Times. And I think that's why they're pushing it this way. And then the other thing, I Googled it real quick. We do these war games with South Korea annually, okay? And it's probably not the best thing to do, because even Japan and others don't particularly like us in that region doing war games. But it's kind of been going on for many years. But then, as the media reports the exercises, they also show, and that's why I had to listen, they said, and also we're going to be doing computer-generated things as well. Like, it's not actually taking place, but, on the computers we also, and they kind of mix that in. And what they're really, what I see them doing, really, is wanting to, what I just told you, wanting to say to Trump, because that's how they're reporting everything about Kim Jong, that he's defiant, and sure he is, showing the pictures. Then top world news tonight. Look how many people are embarrassed of the president, and then at the same time, is Trump going to let him get, I believe that's what they're trying to do. And you say, oh, John, that's too, no, there's people that they've been driving this nonstop. They've been driving this narrative nonstop. So I wanted to give you just that. That'll be the little video for tonight. Just kind of a news update. We have the eclipse tomorrow, and I mentioned it on the video today, and that'll be coming up. And kind of talk a little bit about philosophy and all, and some of the Genesis 1. And so I want to bless all you guys. Instead of a teaching video, if you're driven by media coverage, and some might say, oh, but those particular statistics on how many people in the Rust Belt states are embarrassed of the president, well, but who off the cuff, what news organization off the cuff says what's on the plate for us today with all the really important things that are taking place, with all the other things going on? Let's spend a good 5 minutes, besides getting the poll, and polls could be, look, there's ways you can do polls. The media was doing some polls last year. They said, look how many, and then they just polled 60-something% of Democrats, and they added some Republicans in. Look, they do things like that. I think they're being irresponsible, and I just wanted to make that note. I might have made it before. We got some teaching posts coming up, and I just bless you guys. Okay, we pray. We pray for what's going on. There's a lot going on. We pray grace, mercy. That's one of the verses I taught today, Romans 11, and that we would have mercy. There's a verse I pray when I quote when I'm praying. But God has had mercy upon us, that we might have mercy upon others. See, behold the goodness, Romans 11, behold the goodness and the severity of God. On you which fell goodness, but on them severity. It's a theological argument, I'm not going to taught it already, that they through your mercy might obtain mercy. Okay? Remember, all of my liberal friends that you can't stand Trump. Remember, and I prayed for President Obama all those years when many of my conservative friends hated Obama just as much as many of my liberal friends hate Trump. And if you can't see just the simple things that I explain, you say, well, John, they never had to do a poll on Obama. Look, there's no political campaign going on right now. And you don't just top of the hat. Let's go to the Rust Belt states, some of the states Trump won that were Democratic. And let's just ask how many are embarrassed of Obama or whatever. That would even that question, even if you asked a question, you said, but they had no cause. But even if you asked that, it shows you the narrative. And I do believe that some that are trying very hard for him to resign or impeach him are looking, they realize, because like I said, the way he responded on that tweet, and the military generals and said, well, we're not going to just, that gave a little foot in the door for some to think. Because this happened with Nixon, by the way. There was a time when Nixon was drunk. This is history. And he made some decision, but it was like a big one. I forget exactly what it was. It was history I watched over the last few years. But the people on the inside, because he was drunk when Nixon made this particular decision, they simply kind of like made it look like, yeah, we're going to go, and then they just let it slide when Nixon woke up the next day sober with a hangover day. And I could see many think that would be the key for Trump to just be gone if the generals actually had to rise up. And I think some are looking for that, not realizing that, look, that many countries have these types of things that go on. And when you start getting to the edge where the military has to say, no, we're not going to do a certain thing, that's a crisis. Okay, that becomes like a constitutional crisis. Would some in the media want that? Yes. 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 The same people that say, what should we do today with all the crisis going on in Venezuela, all the things going on in Africa we don't even report on, and then they find all that time and money. let's go do this huge poll and ask how many people are embarrassed of Trump. It's not even a political season for him. Okay? Pray for the president. Pray for the country.